Hey guys, I'm here with a gentleman I met at the Ebike Expo in Philadelphia named Brant.
Yes,
And he has a website called Dance Past Sunset.
that's right.
Sweet. And basically you were going to be interviewing me for your podcast, so I'm going to let you do an intro now.
And I'm so astounded to be here at the 2017 Electric Bike Expo in Philadelphia, where I run into Court Rye. And I know this guy because I've been checking out his website and all of the amazing reviews he does on electric bikes. And it's one of the places that I've gone to do my homework for my audience, who are boomers and their aging parents who are interested in traveling and living independently. And what better way to get out on the road independently is with an e-bike. So Court is the expert. Let's talk about that.
Sweet. Well, I'm game. Go ahead and hit me up with some questions, or maybe, however you want to start.
Well, I started out a few weeks ago not knowing very much at all about
A few
e-bikes.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was a quick education because I thought to myself, as somebody who's now of a certain age and a longtime cyclist, when I get out and I hit a hill or I get pretty tired, it might be nice to have a little extra juice to help me home and to help me pedal up that hill. And what better way to do that with an e-bike? But there's a lot going on in the industry, and Court has been studying this for 5 years now.
Yeah, since like 2012.
And has an amazing website called Electric Bike Review, where you can learn everything that you possibly might want to know about this new technology. But let's start out with a question. Just how would you define an electric bike?
Okay. Electric bikes, to me, it's like a bicycle with a little bit of assistance that tends to be quiet, that's a little bit cleaner, that is a bit simpler than when I was a kid. I had a moped, right? And I mean, obviously, like, what is an electric bike? Well, it's a bike with electric motor, right? Like, that's the simplest definition. But to me, it's in practice, what it means. Like, what does an electric bike do for you? So that was my takeaway. Having had a moped that was really heavy, and I needed to work with my grandpa to actually get it running. And thanks, Grandpa. Like, it was fun. It was a great experience. But it wasn't something that I could actually use the way I can use an electric bike. I can ride this thing without license, without insurance, on bike paths and stuff. It's quiet. It fits right in. I can lock it up and take the battery inside for protection or for charging. It costs like 10 cents to charge it up, and I can go like 20 plus miles. So for me, it's like a bicycle. It's a super bicycle. It's all the things I love about bikes, with that extra little help, so that the wind and that hills don't bog me down like they used to.
Well, thanks, Court. Now, how would you differentiate an e-bike from a moped?
Okay.
How are those different?
Yeah, the moped, I liked the moped because it went a little faster as a kid, and it had this full suspension and stuff, so it felt more like a motorcycle to me, but I did burn my leg on it a little bit, and technically I wasn't allowed to ride it on the road. I rode it on my grandpa's farm. So had I wanted to use it for actual transportation, I don't think I was old enough at the time. I was like 12 or 13, and let's pretend I was 16, okay? So I'd need like a special license, and I'd actually have to get it registered and stuff. So those are two big differences, but coming back to physically, it's like it's hotter. I need to fill it up with gas, and I actually needed to mix it with like the lead additive thing because it was an older moped, and the weight, like, it was more like a vehicle, whereas an electric bicycle is more like a bicycle.
Right, exactly. So mopeds typically would have a gasoline engine on them, and they also would use a throttle. So when you're going uphill or you're moving around, you could go 100% under the power of the moped just by throttling down like you would on a motorcycle.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about the interaction. Yeah, because, okay, can I take this back for a second?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so you're making some great points here. I think one of the big takeaways, aside from weight and the smell and the type of fuel that you're putting in it, whether it's electrical, stored as like chemical energy in a battery, or fuel that's combustible, it's how you use it. A lot of these new electric bikes, it's pedal assist.
Exactly.
So you're pedaling, you're giving the bike that same input that you used to. You can focus on steering, you can change the gears, but the pedaling is what sends that signal to get a little boost. and there's usually several levels of assist that you can choose from. So you can say, I want a little bit of assistance help and maybe, like a little bit of a tailwind, scoot me along, or I want a lot of assistance because I'm trying to keep up with someone who's a better cyclist, or I'm going up a big hill, it's windy out. Whereas the moped, yeah, you're twisting that throttle. And there are electric bikes that have twist throttles. I'm thinking like Pedigo is a big brand that most of their bikes have both. They have pedal assist and a throttle. And what I found is that first of all, that makes it class 2. So there's different legal definitions around the country. Class 1 means pedal assist only, and that's the most bike-like. So I'm gonna pass it back to you. I didn't mean to steal your
No, I love that,
direction.
because what Court said, and the key word there is assist. That's the word, because an e-bike really provides assistance to the pedaling. You're still actually engaged with the bicycle. You're using your muscles. And it's a great opportunity if you're riding with other people who are maybe stronger than you are, have more endurance. Let's say you're riding with one of your children and they continue to want to be on a regular bicycle and you want to go riding with them. You can get an e-bike that offers you just a little bit of assistance, like Court said, like a tailwind, that's different from a motorcycle where you're throttling down and you're actually riding 100% under the power of the bike. Now, some of these e-bikes will let you do that, but most of them, just like Court said, let you dial in just the right amount of help that you want, and the really good ones do that entirely automatically. Is that right?
Completely, yeah. And it's neat that you're getting into the details on this a little bit, because it's nuanced. It used to be like, it's the bike's listening. Are they pedaling? Yes or no, right? So is that analog, on or off?
Yeah.
Right? So yes, turn that motor on. No, turn it off. And now they're
smart.
They're much smarter.
Yeah.
That was like a cadence sensor. Are they pedaling? It's listening only for cadence. Now they have systems that listen for cadence, pedal, torque, so how hard you're pushing, and even if that rear wheel is moving. So the question of like, does this person even want to be going? Do they know what's going on? And they sense that, like some of them 1,000 times per second. So you feel very secure, and it's not overwhelming. Like a throttle, I've had moments where I was a little bit, I got off balance and I accidentally twisted the throttle and it put me even more off balance. When a powerful motor, that can be a scary thing, versus a bicycle, you got those big cranks and it doesn't impede your steering, your handling.
So my favorite e-bikes don't have a throttle. They actually use this pedal assistance that Court is talking about. But as long as we're getting technical, let's talk about my favorite
Bring
subject,
it on.
which is the battery and the electric motor. So I'm really curious about that. I've gone as far as saying that an e-bike is basically a battery and an electric motor with a bike hanging around it.
Sure.
And so if you're going to buy one, it's really important to pay attention to the quality of that motor and the quality of that battery. We've all heard the horror stories about how batteries can catch on fire, and batteries are getting very sophisticated. They need a little bit of extra TLC that you wouldn't have with a regular bicycle. So let's talk about the battery a little bit. What happens if my battery, what should I look for in a good battery and a good power plant?
Okay, that's a good question. Batteries have gotten a lot better. Like in the early days of electric bikes with Lee Iacocca, you guys might have heard about the e-bike. It was neat. It was like, wow, what is this? A bicycle with a motor, and it's kind of a moped, and that was the first, and it had a throttle, okay? But it also used lead acid, sealed lead acid batteries, the same things that you have in your car for like starting your car.
Right.
And they just don't last as long. They're very heavy. These days, everyone has like a smartphone. And there we go. We got a smartphone floating around here. Yeah, this thing. So, the battery in there, they last quite a long time. They're lightweight. They don't get that memory like NiCad batteries. If you remember, it used to be like, make sure you fill the battery, because otherwise, if you let it drain all the way, it could die.
So this is a lithium-ion battery that's in my smartphone, and it's the same battery technology that's in most of the e-bikes that we have out on the floor here. Is that true?
And electric cars,
And electric cars,
and
like
most
the Tesla.
everything these days. They're all lithium something.
Right.
Like lithium, magnesium, cobalt, or what. There's little variations, but they're all considered lithium-ion, and they don't develop that memory, and they tend to be relatively lightweight, although there are higher energy density cells. They cost more. So coming back to like, what would you choose? These days, most of these electric bikes have a lithium-ion battery. I think there's more than just what chemistry, though. It's sort of who's backing this thing. Because if it comes in a really funky case or something, and then the company goes out of business,
exactly,
your investment could.
That's my concern, is that if you go too cheap with an e-bike. Now, e-bikes in general are not cheap. They can be many thousands of dollars. And if you're trying to save a few bucks, you might end up getting a bike that 2, 3, 5 years down the road, the manufacturer's no longer around,
Yeah.
you can't get the battery replaced, you basically just bought something very expensive that it's just going to rust away in the garage.
Yeah.
I think it's probably, and Court, I'd be interested in your opinion on this, it's better to probably pay a little bit more and go with a battery and power plant that is from a reputable manufacturer like Bosch, for example, that will be around 5 years from now when that battery needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. What's that called when you buy something and you regret
Planned obsolescence?
Well,
or
there's
no?
no, I mean like
buyer's
buyer's remorse. Okay,
Yeah.
so I bought my first electric bike in 2012 because I have some sensitivity in my knee from snowboarding and surfing and skateboarding injuries. I've beat myself up a little bit when I was younger, but I still love to ride, and I'm still I'm fit. I'm like out there, but my knee would be sensitive.
He's a whole lot younger than I am.
Well, hey, I got that Benjamin Button thing. I'm going backwards. But the thing is, it's sort of, I spent like $2,000, which is a lot of money. And
Yeah.
I was like, my remorse wasn't like, oh, I spent so much money. Oh my gosh. Like, what did I do? I went overboard. It was actually, I wish I'd spent another $500 and gotten something a little bit better. I wish I'd have spent $1,000 more and gotten something that was really going to last and had that great feeling, because I was riding it all the time. And then I discovered that like I bought an off-brand bike online, and no one had like no resale value. I couldn't get like a replacement battery
Couldn't get
pack
the parts.
easily. Yeah, and it just was such
Kind
a
of painted yourself into a corner.
I
in a way.
did.
Yeah.
It was so disappointing too, because I mean that seems like a lot of money already, and so I know everyone has a limited budget, and these days, coming back to Bosch, you brought them up, they're one of the best, okay? Like, this is Bosch, the same guys that make, like, washing machines, same guys that make, like, car stuff.
Sure.
This is a big company in
they've been around
Germany.
forever.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
real reliable company, and they have these, like, 10-year plans, but because they sell stuff in Europe, and they have to, that's some of the legislation over there. Just like in the United States, California has certain standards for automotive, and they're a big market, and so the car companies will be like, well, we want to sell in California, and then all these other states benefit from that legislation a little bit. And depending on your viewpoints and stuff, like, it's nice to have freedom, and we do have that in the e-bike space. You can even buy a kit and you can build something. But when you look at these big, like, companies, they've got a plan, and their batteries are going to be around, and they build stuff that's not going to catch on fire easily. Some people have been concerned about like the Tesla stuff or the Samsung phones. Lithium ion batteries can be, I don't want to create like too much sensitivity around this. Fuel is certainly a potentially dangerous substance as well, a gasoline.
Sure.
These lithium-ion batteries from the better companies, they're reliable. They're not
Right.
going to expire prematurely. They're not going to catch on fire if they have like fuses and control systems that are much better. And so that in and of itself is something I think about, like, am I going to put this in my house? Like, I want a better battery. And it's so much fun. It's funny because, I'm meandering here a little bit, but the kits are fun, and a lot of people think like, I can buy something, I can make like a 30-mile-per-hour electric bike, and it's like, okay, but you can buy a motorcycle. You're an adult, get a license or something, and maybe you already have it. Buy the motorcycle separately, because I sometimes I get concerned about the legality. I want to give a little history lesson. Is that okay?
Sure,
so
absolutely.
electric bikes, the legislation in the United States is 750 watts nominal for your motor power, 20 mile per hour top speed. And there's this kind of gray area that says, well, if the motor helps you as if it was going to 20 all on its own, but you're pedaling, maybe it can take you to around 28. And that's this flexible definition from Europe, where they actually have a class 3, called the speed pedelec, goes up to 28 miles per hour. So we sort of like pigeonholed it in, and no one in the US seems to care. You ride it on the side of the street, whatever. It looks like a bike, you got pedals, not a big deal. But where did all this come from? My understanding is that it was like George Bush Sr., who was, I just imagine this meeting he must have been having where they're like, George, like, what should we do about this whole electric bike thing? He's like, well, if it's less than a horsepower, it's a bicycle. Well, guess what 1 horsepower equates to? 750 watts. Okay, so at some point it was like 20 miles per hour, 750, 1 horsepower, whatever, and that's neat, because in Europe it's 15.5 miles per hour top speed, 250 watts. So it's really neat that we already have a lot of extra power pro cyclists put out like 200 watts continuous on rides, and we're already talking about 750 watt motors.
Yeah.
In Europe, 250 watts. It's 50 more watts
Right.
than a pro cyclist. I'm telling you this, and I'm speaking to some of your viewers here because it does seem to be, you know, you get a little older, you put on some pounds, you want to have that fun feeling like your sports car. I would just say be careful, because if you end up in an accident and someone gets hurt, 750 watts, you're still a bicycle. But if you get that 1,000 watt motor or something, you could be putting yourself in some legal.
Right. So you don't necessarily need to buy that 1,000 watt motor. You can go with something that's still in the lower class.
350 watts, 500 watts
and have
is fine.
a wonderful, reliable bicycle
Yeah.
that will just give you that little tailwind when you need it, and you won't buy more than you need, and you won't put yourself in danger either, because you've got this super powerful motor.
Yeah.
So my recommendations is, first of all, you're going to want to go to ElectricBikeReview.com, which is Court's website. Amazing site. It's got all kinds of reviews going back years, and you can educate yourself on all the different types of bikes that are available. But for older folks, I think a step-through bike that doesn't have the top bar, so it's easy to get on and off.
Yeah.
Look at the quality of the power plant, the battery. Certainly Bosch is a reputable company.
Other good companies are Yamaha,
makes
Brose,
one.
Shimano.
Yep,
The
Shimano.
big guys, yeah.
Right, and most of those companies don't actually make the bikes. They just make the power plants.
Yeah.
And then they sell them to the bike manufacturers who put their own particular frames. You've got cargo bikes, you've got trike bikes, you've got recumbent bikes, but they'll all use one of those reputable power plants.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at an e-bike, check out and see who makes the power plant, who makes the battery, and if you recognize the name, like one of those that we just mentioned, chances are you're going to have something that'll last you well into the future and do very well for you. And then jump on out to Court's site, because you're going to find everything you need there to make an informed decision.
Thank you. And you know, my site's called ElectricBikeReview.com. I've been doing it for...
Did I say it right the first time?
I think you got it. You got it. But you know, just for people who are curious, you know, I don't mean to oversell my resource, but it's really designed just as that. It's a resource. And we were talking about this earlier. What would you recommend for this type of audience? And I was like, well, gosh, you know, the step-through frames are much more approachable. As someone who has like some knee issues, I can only imagine having a hip issue and trying to swing your leg over that bar, or those moments where you have to get off unexpectedly and put your feet down. You don't want to like land on that bar and hurt yourself. So there are more and more options that are step-through. I categorize them on my site as cruiser or neighborhood, and I have these filters, so you can say, show me all the neighborhood bikes, and then that's going to be a little bit more low-key.
Yeah.
It's going to be something that's like comfortable, stable. Now they have these bigger tires, they're kind of fatter balloon tires, and that gives you some nice stability. You know, the handlebars aren't going to be super twitchy. There's a lot there that these, as you put it, the bicycle manufacturers, they're putting the nice power plants on most of the bikes these days.
Right.
It's just, there is that whole universe of bike types, bike styles, colors, fits, sizes. Like, you know, you go from something like Trek, they bought Electra, and they have the Electra Townie bike, and that was a fun one, you know, and it's colorful, and the ladies kind of, that's been a real popular one for women. Mm-hmm. So if you're someone who has a significant other, maybe you're okay cycling, but you want to get your SO, like a nice, something to kind of keep up and feel empowered.
It's a great way to have to put some fire on your romance if you can take your sweetheart out for a bike ride.
Yeah, see the town, you know, say to the neighbors. Yeah.
So let's close with talking about tires just a little bit, because I see out here on the show there are bikes with these monster knobby tires, and then I see others with the really skinny little tires, and then a bunch in between.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for people who are just towny riders, want something safe and comfortable?
Yeah.
Older generation riders, what kind of tires would you recommend for them?
A lot of the bikes that we've talked about, you know, here's some companies, like there's High Bike and Bulls and Trek, and Specialized just came out with a new one called the Como. And that's a kind of a relaxed cruiser style, and it's got those...
Sit upright.
Yes, very upright.
Straight handlebars.
You can see, you can spot traffic or talk to your friend.
Yeah,
Swept back handlebars, ergonomic grips, plush saddle, all those things. Bigger tires. So it's like 2.3 inch diameter versus a lot of the road it's like an inch and a half. So an inch and a half to 2, and
and that's
whatever.
the width, right?
That's like kind of the width, yeah.
Okay.
There's also wheel diameter, so you go from 20 to 24, and that's kind of a kid's bike size, to 26.
And all of those are fairly standard.
These are standards.
I could go to my local bike shop and buy a tire if I needed to, or maybe even if I had to, I could buy a wheel. And those are all standardized parts.
And that's, we're getting into this other topic of like, I've got this website, but the whole goal, and I have a map on the website that shows here dealers, hopefully in your area, if they've gotten on the map. It's nice to go in and get fitted. I personally believe that there are a number of right choices for each person that would work. And if you can find a dealer that has one of those right choices, well, then just go to the dealer. Get some help, get fitted. You'll get your service and warranty coverage from them too. So to the tire question, I think most of these bikes are already outfitted with good tires. Something I personally look for is I like the puncture protection, so they have like Kevlar lining on some of the Schwabe, is what they call it in Germany, but Schwabe is what I hear in the US, and it's a nice company, or Continental, so they have that Kevlar lining, so you're not going to get thorns, because you think about these bikes, a lot of them weigh like 50 pounds. A normal bike is like 30 or something, so you added 20 pounds of batteries and stuff.
Right, they're much heavier than a regular bicycle.
And
and that's another
changing
thing
a flat
to look
is no
out
fun.
to, and I just remembered that is when you want to charge the battery up, you have a couple of options. You can either leave it on the bike and you can plug it in right in the garage, or in many cases you can actually detach it and carry it inside and charge it inside. Now, how heavy can those get? I mean, I don't want to be lugging a 50-pound battery inside.
Oh no, again, the lithium-ion batteries, the Bosch PowerPack 500, which is a very popular the 2017, 2018 battery.
It's about half the size of a loaf of bread.
Yeah, it's cute, and it's got like a little handle on the top, a loop, because you don't want to drop these. They are somewhat sensitive. That battery weighs 5.8 pounds.
Oh yeah, easily
carry it. And the charger is only 1.7 pounds, and it's a 4-amp charger that Bosch offers. That's one of the things that differentiates them. You can charge a little faster, take you about 4 or 4.5 hours from empty. But we were talking about charge cycling a minute ago. A lot of these batteries from the nicer, that you're spending a little bit more on, they have built-in controllers that say, don't overcharge me. Like when it gets to 80, 90%, slow it down. And then when it gets almost to empty, let's just tell the rider that they're basically at empty. And that way, it kind of keeps you in that middle ground. If you think about hybrid cars, the Toyota Prius, it's been around for a long time. And some people have had to replace the battery, but I think I've been very surprised that we have 10-year-old cars that the battery is still good, the hybrid battery. And I think that's because it also has a really smart control system that's being sensitive about charging. Okay, so that's just one more reason. It's easy to look at the price tag on, and my website included it. It lets you sort by price. People are price sensitive, but you do get what you pay for.
That's true.
Yeah, when you go with high quality.
And batteries, they do need a little bit of extra TLC that maybe that bike that's sitting out the garage that's a regular pedal bike doesn't need. They will last longer if they are in a temperature-controlled environment. Court mentioned cycles, and that's a different way of measuring how long something will last. A lot of us, we think about things in terms of the hours, how long they'll last in hours, or how long something will last in miles. If you buy a new tire for your car, they'll say, oh, this is a 40,000 mile tire. Batteries are different. Batteries are measured by how many cycles they have in them. And once they've gone through their lifetime of cycles, they need to be either replaced, or in some cases, they need to be repacked, which is another option.
Right, yeah. Okay, so I want to chime in and clarify some of that, or just, I'm the technical guy, right? So
go ahead, geek out on us.
The battery, first of all, we talked about different chargers. A lot of chargers are 2-amp. The Bosch one has 4. Some of them have 3 or whatever. It's kind of nice if you're in a hurry, if you're a commuter, a younger person riding to work, being able to take the battery off and charge it inside or whatever, that's really nice. And you mentioned temperature controlled, specifically cool, dry. Extreme heat, that degrades the cells a little bit. Extreme cold, you're not going to get the same, the battery's going to say, I'm fully charged, and you're only going to get half the range because it's cold. And right, there's even a bike company that has a little neoprene jacket for their batteries that keeps it
a little warmer, a little cubby.
It keeps it's like a wetsuit kind of. So yeah, cool, dry location. It's nice to be able to remove the battery. Not all bikes have removability on the batteries. Like the Faraday has these beautiful bikes, and they look nice because the cells are like literally in the tube on the bike. The drawback is you have to bring that bike close to the wall outlet and maybe leave that battery out in those extreme conditions. The other thing you mentioned was charge cycles. What's going to happen after about 1,000 charge cycles on a lot of these nicer lithium-ion batteries? It's going to only give you about 60 to 70% of the range that you used to get. Well, that's still pretty good.
Still good.
Depending on the bike you get.
But slowly degrades over the life of the battery.
Right.
You can't quite go as far, or you might not get quite the oomph out of it that you did when it was a brand new battery.
And can we do an exercise real quick?
Sure.
How many days are in a year, right? 365, is that about right? Okay, 1,000 charge cycles, full charge cycles.
That would be about two a day, right?
I mean, yeah, most people...
Or maybe almost 3.
Most people are not going to be right. Some of these, again, I'm going to, like Bosch, Yamaha, Brose, Shimano, mid-drive bikes these days, they're putting the motor in the middle so it's a little more balanced, and when you shift gears, it empowers the motor. And you can get like twice the range you used to get. So a lot of these bikes are rated from 30 to like 70 miles. And 70, that's when you're in the lower levels of assist, the tailwind feel we talked about. So let's say it's 50. Okay, are you riding 50 miles a day, every day for a year? Probably not. I mean, maybe a commuter, and great. At that point, that's still like 2.5, 3 years of very heavy use, at which point the battery pack might be $600 to $900 to replace. It is one of the more expensive components on the bike, but I want to give people a sense that I ride my bike a couple times per week for fun, and I don't go 50 miles, and I don't, the whole like, is my battery going to last, and am I going to have to buy a new one or repack it, which is there's companies like Rechargeable Power Energy, also known as e-bike marketplace, and then you can actually go to them and send them your battery, and they'll take the old cells out and they'll make sure it works for the, but these batteries last a long time, many years, and your bike's going to take some wear in that time too, and you might be ready for a new battery anyway.
Awesome. So folks, you want to jump out to Electric Bike Review, where Court's got all kinds of useful information there, a lot more than we talked about today. You can deep dive. Stay tuned to my website, dancepastsunset.com, where I'll continue to provide information about e-bikes and e-mobility, because it's not just two-wheelers. There's also three-wheelers, there's recumbent bikes, there's electric wheelchairs, there's scooters, there's all of these electrical vehicles, light electric vehicles that are helping people get out and about, stay independent, and very importantly, doing this in a green way. Because what I learned from your website is that the typical light electric vehicle requires 1/50th of the energy to move a human being as a car does. Sure. Amazing. So if you're concerned at all about the environment, if you want to go green, then you really need to check out electric bicycles and other electric vehicles.
Fantastic. And I want to, we were doing like a podcast here, so that might be the end for the podcast, but I wanted to just elaborate on the efficiency of some of these products. It's not just environmental, but you're getting out there, you're connecting with people in the community, you're making friends potentially. You can just pull over and stop at that farmer's market. You don't have to worry about parking, and then the money side of it, sustainable financially, because it's really not that expensive to charge these. I've done a breakdown, and some of these bikes can cost a bit more. You're spending $3,000 and you amortize that over the life of the battery and all that. It's not free by any means, but it is something that can really bring a lot of life back into your...
Well, here's an idea. How about starting up e-bike clubs? If you're in, say, a 55-plus community, you get together with a bunch of your friends on a Saturday morning, a couple, 3, 4, 5 of you, make a little peloton, e-bike peloton. It's safe. Ride up to your local coffee shop, have a book club, ride home, do it on your e-bike. And it's just a great way to have community, get out, fresh air, a little bit of exercise, and going green.
I want to make one more little just tidbit. Before, when we were talking about electric mountain biking and the sportier stuff, none of those guys have 1,000-watt motors. None of them even have like 500-watt motors. They're all using the 250-watt motors from Europe. They're rated from 250 to 500-watt peak, and that's because those are the best motors. And the truth is, you're getting high newton meters of torque, like 60, 75, 90 newton meters of torque with the Brose system in particular. You just don't. It's not about the wattage. It's a little bit misleading, and you might think like, yeah, I want that throttle, or I am a sporty rider, but then it becomes illegal on the trails, and it's adding weight, and it's just unnecessary. So I didn't want people to think that, oh, that's only for the young guys. I personally think it's not really for anyone.
Newton meters?
Newton meters of torque.
I haven't heard that since I was an engineering student.
You weren't? Okay, there you go. It's important, right? They're bringing these good skills and knowledge.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts? I didn't mean to critique everything, but I want to be really
it's amazing,
exacting.
Super helpful. What we just wanted to give an overview and provide a couple of buying tips and provide some excellent resources where you can learn more.
Tell me about your website again, because we just met today and it was like, let's do this, it'll be fun. You had great questions. But who's the audience and
Dance Past Sunset is a podcast and blog that targets people of a certain age, typically boomers and their aging parents.
Past sunset sounds like...
Well, here's the deal on that, okay? We often refer to, the later years of your life as the sunset years.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in helping people just keep dancing right on past on through, and into the afterlife,
Yeah.
Keep the party going.
I like that, and like an evening party kind of thing. That's a neat.
Dance till dawn, dance past sunset, just keep dancing, keep getting out there, enjoying peak experiences. And I want to see people be able to do it independently. I like the whole concept of independent living with a little assistance when it's needed. So what we do on the podcast is we evaluate tools, tips, and technologies that help people do that.
Awesome. There's a movie called like Before Sunset or After Sunrise or something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Am I in it?
I don't think so. Not yet. Right. This was a fun one. Just for those people, maybe you can chime in the comments. Do you have any more questions for me? I mean, we've been on display here doing like a podcast, but just for real, like anything that you're curious about.
Yeah, I'm curious to know your story. How'd you get into it?
Oh, okay. Well, just I ride my bike, wanting to do something.
What were you doing before?
My history is born and raised in Colorado. Went to CU Boulder, studied like business marketing, entrepreneurship, economics, graduated debt-free because I was able to work a couple of jobs in school, and I really just wanted to go surfing. That was my dream. I wanted to go to college, but I was, in a surf town like San Diego, but I was like, might be distracted by the beach, and so I got good grades, I worked hard, and then I moved to California, got a job with Accenture, worked there for a while. I switched to Google because I was very excited about clean tech, took some more studies at Stanford, clean tech, entrepreneurship, energy resource engineering, PHP programming, and then I got a CNCP, Certified Nanotech Clean Tech Professional type of a thing. So the idea was I could position myself to get a job in the sustainability industries. I ended up working at more tech companies and stuff. Retail Me Not in Austin, it's like a online coupon type of thing, and I was a community product manager, so I really like communities. And at that time I also created a site called Car Stations, so you could find electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And this was around the time of EV1 was kind of on the way out. Who Killed the Electric Car was a movie at that time. We started to have Tesla. I met one of the founders of Tesla, Martin Eberhard, in Palo Alto. I was like, cool car. Did you ever think about making one? And he's like, I did. This is my company. I was like, whoa. So this is before Elon Musk came in, and apparently there was some, management changes that happened. But just neat to be around at that time in Silicon Valley. But these companies, you work all the time, and not that I don't now, I still work a lot, but I wanted to do something I believed in, and I felt like electric bikes capture that community, health, and sustainability that I believe in for the future. So I really applied myself and my experience doing websites and business and stuff to making EBR and to trying to be authentic. So, I have some advertisers and I have a little business model, but it's really about connecting and, this kind of thing. So thanks for all the shout outs.
Fun job.
You get
to come to places like this and
cool
right
people.
In there is a whole floor full of toys.
We can walk back that way. That might be a cool way to.
All right. Absolutely. So we are here at the Philadelphia Convention Center, which is hosting not only the Ebike Expo, but also the regular 2017 Bike Expo, which has got all the pedal bikes over on that side. This side of the hall has got Bosch and all of the e-bike manufacturers. It's got Electric City Bike, I think, is from my town.
Got a little hung up.
Electric City Bikes. These are some folks from the Netherlands.
Urban Arrow.
This cargo bike, which is amazing. And this is an example of the Bosch power plant that you've got right here. That is the motor, and then
There's the battery.
battery is right here. And this will actually come out. I don't want to fiddle with it, but that'll pop right out, and you can take that inside and charge it up.
Let's keep walking that way. We can point out. So there's the Bosch booth. We're giving Bosch a lot of love at this little video. This isn't a paid interview or anything like that. We're just kind of fanboys.
Go this way. Here you see some of the really fat knobby tires that I was talking
That's plus
about.
size, yeah.
That's a huge tire compared with something that you probably would want to take out. This is more of a comfort city bike tire, really good for just comfort riding and getting around. And then if you've got performance bikes, then you're going to have a real skinny tire.
There's the cargo bike on our left, and
Another cargo bike.
oh, there's the Specialized Como. That's the new one from them,
the
pink.
Okay.
And
Here's
then,
a trike right here.
oh yeah,
It's an electric trike. Now this is going to be really stable. You're going to be able to put your groceries in the back right there.
yeah.
Great. Hey, you're from my city.
There you go.
You're from DC, right? I'm Brad. How you doing? I see your shop down in Adams, Morgan. Yeah,
Yeah.
Charles runs electric.
Where are you?
I'm in Falls Church.
Falls Church.
Yeah, I was by your shop there. I went to Bassa, DC to hear Ethiopian.
Here's some more of these different bikes we got to see. Trex. It's a super commuter, really fun one. And then here's the test track. It's pretty neat. They have a big ramp that you can go over, and just some different corners. They even put some goopy stuff on the floor so people wouldn't slide out on puppies. And the Reese & Mueller booth over here. It's a German company. We got Copenhagen Wheel, Easy Motion, just a whole bunch of stuff. Smart Motion over there. Good stuff all around. Well, guys, we lost Brant, but we had a good time. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully this filled you in on just more random questions about e-bikes or feedback. I'll see you on the next review.